you think that the Nets and Kyrie Irving are going to be able to work out some sort of long-term extension in the near future?
Well, before you actually change the camera angle, let's switch it back to just the two of us because I'm going to ask you a couple of questions that I've been thinking about in regards to this particular topic.
Okay.
This is a business decision. You're an NBA GM. You see a prospect. Let's just leave him nameless. A top 15, 20 prospect, and he's available for you to re-sign. But you're looking at it and you're saying, damn, in the last 3 years in which he has been on my roster, he has been a distraction. He has not been available for various reasons, COVID aside, injuries, days off for mentality, like him having those activist speeches. And again, I'm in full support of some of the things that he did. But again, as an employer, your employee is not there. I don't care about the issues that Kyrie has been going through, his stances, his beliefs. You are being paid to do a job. Are you going to pay Kyrie Irving, Kyle? Would you pay him right now? For long term, for about a 3-4 year deal, would you give him that? Would you give him that security?
It depends on how big of a contract that he wants. Am I giving
Kyrie Irving's his talent alone is gonna get him in the 30s. We already know that right now he's set to make, I think, about $36 million. He's not gonna settle for less. He's not gonna take a pay cut. Let's just assume it stays the same. 36, 37 a year for 3 years.
I'd probably try to bargain it down a little bit less, just because the availability issue is a big one of concern for me. Anything that approaches $40 million a year, I'm out. I'm like, at that point, it's not worth it, because
we're already on the precipice of $40 million. We're $3 million away. For the NBA, that's piss money. We're talking about that's wiping the ass. I'm just saying, at that point, I'm taking that. I'm knocking that down $10 million, bro. I'm knocking you automatically, bro. 25. You want long term? I'm not giving you 35. I'm not giving you 40. You're not touching that. And if you don't want long term, I'll give you 36 or 1 year. I'll give you 30 a year, 2 year. Bro, Stephen A. Smith has been saying this for weeks, and he has been shat on all of his takes about Kyrie Irving. Again, it has nothing to do with his stance. Kyle, he's not shown up for work. He's, in the last 3 seasons, opted out for COVID, injured and COVID restrictions, and then this year, COVID with the vaccine. It doesn't matter. You're not showing up for work. You want to be a distraction. You want to be a person that's not being able to be relied upon as a leader. You're one of the best players on this team. I'm not giving you money. And if I am, bro, you got to prove it. Stephen A. Smith said it perfectly. I will give you the maximum I can give you 1 year at a time, with incentives, of course. You got to report like the Carson Wentz deal. You got to play 75% of the snaps. I need you to show up for 75% of the games. I need you to be available. If that is something that you can't do for us, I can't hire you. I can't employ you. I cannot afford to give you this money that I could be giving to somebody else to attract that is going to be here every single day and put in work. Will he give me the same production that Kyrie does? There is very little and far in between the amount of people that can give you the efficiency and consistency that Kyrie does when he wants to play. But that's the phrase, when he wants. Bro, you've had an injury history since college. That has been overlooked. Now you're becoming a distraction, and now your stance and your political, religious, whatever beliefs are getting in the way of you having a responsibility for your job. You are being paid. This isn't volunteer work. If I'm Brooklyn and I can't get a short-term deal done, even if it's a short-term max deal to where Kyrie has it's a 2-year with a team option, I'm not doing it. I can't. Any NBA franchise, bro, I don't care how desperate you are. Or should I say any competitive? Because, we all know that there are some shitty teams that would throw a bag at him, and that's because just out of the sheer talent that Kyrie Irving is. If I'm the Nets, bro, you're getting a 1 or 2 deal at max. A 1 or 2 year deal at max. And that's it. There's not an in-between.
Kev, I think for me, I'm basically along the similar sentiment with you. It's just, I think we all can acknowledge, Kyrie's skills as a basketball player are damn near unmatched. I mean, his handles are the best in the league. He's a great mid-range shooter. He's just an overall great basketball player to watch. That's just the skill set part. But it's like you said, when it comes to the availability aspect, I mean, you have to be able to show up, night in and night out on a consistent basis. You have to at least play 75, 80% of the games if you're healthy.
Of course.
If you're not healthy, look, everybody goes through injuries. Injuries are just a part of the game. There's nothing you could do about that. But when you look at Kyrie Irving and you look at really the reasons on why he's taking these extended leaves of absence from the Nets, the last couple of years that he's been with them, it starts to become a distraction, and the team's not going to put up with it, especially when it comes to a long-term extension where there's possibly a 3 to 4, maybe to 5 year deal on the table. They're going to definitely factor that in if you're not showing up consistently. I mean, look, when you look at Kyrie's past, for example, I mean, Kevin, I think we could both kind of look back to what he did in the bubble. I mean, Kyrie Irving was one of the advocates in the NBA bubble, basically saying when the whole George Floyd thing was going on that they would basically like boycott at the NBA bubble for the entire playoff run. Now, I understand like a lot of the players, like they had their opinion on what happened with George Floyd, but they were all of the mindset that we should continue to play basketball despite whatever's going on around the world. And Kyrie was one where he's like, no, we got to like put that to the side. We got to put basketball to the side. We got to focus on this, this social cause like right here, right now. And we got to put basketball in the rear view to get that out of the way. I mean, that's just one example. You look at what he's done the last couple of years, he's really kind of taken this, what I would say is, a pretty big spiritual turn the last couple of years. I mean, for God's sakes, I think, when he's playing with the Celtics, I mean, he was just burning sage in pregame warmups on the sidelines. Now, if that's to get him in his right mind or, to like get into like his zen or whatever, fine, whatever. I think it's a little weird, but you know what? To each his own. If that's what he's got to do, so be it. But, once it starts getting into you're missing a large portion of the games year in and year out, no matter what the reason is, I think not this past season, but the year before, he was having like political discussions with local legislators and taking times of absence away from the Nets to focus on that stuff. I understand, like, I could respect, Kyrie trying to be able to, I guess like expand his knowledge on certain things and try to, be a more vocal part of the community. But if it's coming at the expense of your job, the Nets are going to look at you a little bit sideways for that. And then, when it comes to the whole COVID situation this year, that's where I think it's really starting to become a hindrance for the team and the organization as a whole. Because, when Kyrie signed on with the Nets, they were of the mindset, that he was going to play 70, 80, 85, possibly 90% of the games, barring some sort of injury, and possibly lead Brooklyn to a championship along the way, or at least keep them in contention for a title. Especially when they brought KD in, it changes the entire dynamic of the team when you got KD and Kyrie running the show. I mean, you're going to love seeing those guys perform at a high level every single night. But if Kyrie's not on the court consistently and the idea of a long-term contract extension comes up, you're going to look at his antics and what he's done the last couple of years. And it's like, I can't trust you because you have just a bunch of these reasons that keep popping up and where basketball is no longer the priority because you're just focused on all these other things that you think are important. And I understand from Kyrie's perspective that, he could have those things that are important to his life, but, your job is something that you have to constantly go to day in and day out. And I mean, look, when you're making $35 million a year, that's where your priorities should be. But obviously to him, it's not. And I think that there's going to be some consequences from that because Brooklyn is of the mindset that they can't bank on him for a long-term extension, maybe a 1 or 2 year deal at best for like 30 to 35 mil. But I mean, if there's any sort of discussions about Kyrie trying to get like a $40 to $45 million contract for like the next 4 to 5 years, I think Brooklyn would be out of their minds to give him something like that because they can't trust him. And honestly, if I was a GM, if I was in the front office for the Nets, I wouldn't either. But if Kyrie was there all of the time, where there was no distractions whatsoever, I'd definitely be more open to giving him a larger long-term extension contract. But that's not the case. So I can definitely understand the Nets' position here and as far as their hesitancy to give him a long-term extension. And it's really because of Kyrie himself. He's a great basketball player. Nobody denies that. But two things can be true at the same time. He's a great basketball player, but he hurts himself in the process because he's just focused on too many things at one time. And I think it's going to cost him. To what extent? I guess we'll find out. Time will tell.